The boy picks up a nail with his mouth, then quickly swallows it. Unexpectedly, he starts to gag, and suddenly spits out an egg, followed by a second one, and a third. People rush forward to give him money. However, this kind of trick can only be performed once in each place. He hurriedly returns home afterward. The first thing he does is ask his mother to shake his body. With just a gentle shake from his mother, coins keep falling onto the ground endlessly. Seeing his mother laugh with joy, he promises her that one day he'll turn all of these into gold. But as he grows older, he gradually realizes that street performance barely makes ends meet. To fulfill his childhood promise, he needs to do something big. So he finds journalists and throws all his savings in front of the sheriff, then provocatively declares that this prison cell can't hold him. The angry sheriff pushes him into the prison and thoroughly searches his body, then firmly locks the iron door, determined to teach him a lesson. His wife comes to kiss him goodbye. The sheriff immediately notices something suspicious, but after careful inspection, nothing unusual is found. The sheriff threatens, "If you can't escape, I'll keep you for another 15 days for disturbing public order." But as soon as the sheriff leaves, as if nothing happened, he slowly regurgitates an iron bar from his esophagus. As expected, he successfully escapes. Houdini finally makes headlines, but it was just a flash in the pan, so he has to find the sheriff again, and mocks him once more. But this time the sheriff is well prepared, not only strips Houdini naked, but also chains his hands and feet, and specially makes a mask for him. Finally even calls all the city's reporters to witness his humiliation. But as soon as the door closes, something incredible happens. Houdini slowly opens his hands, revealing 6 fingers. Then he pours out the key from inside. When everyone returns, the cell is already empty. The media extensively covers the story. Houdini's fame suddenly rises, but he knows it's not enough to maintain the attention. He must quickly come up with something more exciting. He chains his feet and hangs upside down. His assistant slowly lowers him into the water. Houdini begins to try breaking free from the handcuffs, but hanging upside down makes it difficult to use his strength. He signals his wife to pull him up first, but then the mechanism malfunctions. They can't pull the rope at all. As Houdini approaches his limit, the assistant quickly grabs an axe, using all his strength, striking the glass repeatedly. Fortunately at the last moment, heaven still favors this madman, but the crazy Houdini doesn't learn his lesson. Before the act is perfected, he impatiently steps onto the stage. This is mankind's first water tank escape performance. The audience holds their breath, but until the set time passes, Houdini was nowhere to be seen. The crowd began to grow restless, worried about a possible fatality. His wife and assistant started to panic. They quickly called for rescue personnel to come forward, but when the screen was opened, the water cell was completely empty. It turned out Houdini had already escaped. The performance was a huge success. Houdini instantly became the greatest magician. He even received an invitation from the German royal family. However, the king was very worldly, and wasn't impressed by ordinary tricks. To impress the king, he needed to show his ultimate skill, so he asked the general to shoot at a target. The general pulled the trigger and hit the bullseye on his first shot. The assistant took the gun and continued loading gunpowder. Houdini took out another bullet, asked the general to verify its authenticity. After confirmation, the assistant pushed the bullet into the barrel, but when the general raised the gun to aim again, Houdini surprisingly stepped forward. The man suddenly stood in front of the target. He boldly claimed he would catch the bullet with his mouth. His wife became nervous immediately, because she had never seen this performance before. However, after the gunshot, Houdini remained unharmed. He even had the bullet between his teeth. The king had never seen such a performance. He couldn't help but stand up and cheer, but he would never have guessed. The principle behind it was so simple. Just a small magnet could easily pull out the bullet, while removing the ramrod. Yet this simple trick once again increased Houdini's value significantly. Soon he was invited to perform for the Tsar's family. This time he would demonstrate his divine power. Everyone was shocked after hearing this. Only the minister smiled with contempt. Then he asked everyone to write their wishes on paper, and let the little princess randomly pick one. But when he opened the note, he remembered he couldn't read Russian, so he had to ask the queen to translate for him. Someone wished for the Kremlin bells to ring again, but this wish seemed like an impossible dream, because the Kremlin bells hadn't rung for hundreds of years. Not only had the bell ropes rotted away, but even the stone stairs leading up were completely damaged. Yet Houdini was full of confidence. He walked to the window, letting everyone see the great bell in the distance. Then he took out a handkerchief. In front of everyone, he transformed it into a miniature bell rope. He beckoned the little princess to come forward, wanting her to ring the bell herself. Each time the princess pulled the rope, the distant bell would ring once. The bell sound was melodious, echoing throughout the Kremlin. The royal family members all knelt down reverently. Even the minister was deeply impressed. But this wasn't divine power at all. The secret was just a sniper rifle. When the princess pulled the rope, the assistant would pull the trigger aiming at the bell, and that wish note was just pre-written by Houdini and hidden in his hand. Through this, Houdini became a world-famous magician, finally fulfilling his childhood promise to his mother. converting all the coins he gave his mother into gold ones. But he would never have expected everything he had worked so hard for would vanish overnight. At this time, comedy master Chaplin emerged. No one was interested in his magic shows anymore, but Houdini wasn't willing to give up. He accidentally noticed the ice cubes in his glass. Suddenly he had an inspiration. He decided to leave the grand stage he had fought so hard to achieve, and bring magic back to the streets. So despite his wife's protests, he resolutely stood on the high bridge dozens of meters tall, and he finally got what he wanted. Thousands of people came to watch his performance. However, what awaited him was the possibility of losing his life. He jumped into the freezing river, quickly removed the key from under his feet, unlocked the chains on his body one by one. Things went much more smoothly than expected, but when he looked up again, he couldn't find the exit. He had forgotten to consider the river's current. The predetermined time had already passed, yet there was still no movement on the water's surface. His wife was extremely worried. She wished she could see through the thick ice, but Houdini had already stopped struggling. Life memories began flashing before his eyes. At the moment near death, he actually saw his mother showing him the way. Finally, he managed to escape successfully. Houdini once again became the focus of worldwide attention. This is a newly built solid wall, but the man claimed he could pass through it. As the screen slowly came down, the next second, the man actually passed through. The audience below was stunned. Even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, couldn't spot any flaws. Until 3 seconds later, the audience finally burst into enthusiastic applause. Unexpectedly, Conan asked him to do it again. Houdini was put on the spot. Although he had only rehearsed once, he had to go through with it anyway. Just as the screen was pulled down, the assistant triggered the mechanism below stage. Houdini quickly crawled through. Seeing the great magician in such an awkward state, even his wife couldn't help but smile. But Houdini calmly signaled to his assistant. When the screen was pulled back again, Houdini had completed the pass-through once more. The audience erupted in even louder applause, but Conan seemed to realize something. After the show ended, he went straight backstage, saying he had used Sherlock Holmes' perspective to figure out the secret of passing through walls. Houdini felt inevitably nervous, but what came next shocked him even more. You must have spiritual powers. Houdini could never have imagined that the writer known for his logical deductions would believe in supernatural things. However, at that moment, the assistant brought devastating news. Houdini's mother had suddenly passed away. His mind went completely blank, and he fainted on the spot. His mother was the most important person in his life, but he had neglected to spend time with her. He didn't even get to say goodbye. He had so many things he wanted to tell his mother, but it was all too late. Seeing Houdini so heartbroken, the assistant suggested he try communicating with his mother through spiritualism, but Houdini knew well, those were all just tricks. Actually, many years ago, Houdini had performed similar spiritualist tricks. He had spirits possess his wife, who would reveal many details about past cases. Many witnesses found it extremely accurate, but all of this was actually information they had obtained from the police beforehand, then processed with some speculation, and dramatically presented. Although the performance was incredibly successful, it stirred up painful memories for the victims' families. Seeing their suffering, Houdini felt deep remorse, and decided never to touch such things again. But his mother's passing left an unhealing wound in his heart. He would often sink into deep longing, sometimes even experiencing hallucinations. Finally, he decided to try spiritualism, but those fraudulent charlatans only knew basic deceptive tricks. He went time after time with hope, only to return disappointed each time. He finally understood how the victims' families felt back then. His heart filled with anger and disappointment, so he began exposing these tricks to the media, openly challenging so-called medium organizations. But this also touched others' interests. There were always people watching his every move from the shadows. One day he met the Conan Doyles again. They knew about Houdini's skepticism towards spiritualism, so they decided to conduct a séance for him personally. And Mrs. Doyle's method was indeed different from others. She used a pen as a tool to communicate with spirits. As a ghostly wind blew by, Mother seemed to truly possess the lady's body. In that moment, Houdini truly felt his mother was right beside him. His eyes filled with tears. The endless longing in his heart finally found solace. But he had already noticed the discrepancies, because his mother couldn't speak English at all, and would never forget his birthday. Just in that moment, he simply wanted to feel his mother's care one more time. Later he exposed the Conan couple's deception, and once again warned those who deceived people's emotions, and profited greatly from being mediums. He would spend his entire remaining life fighting against them, until their last lie was exposed. The Conan couple was subsequently besieged by the media. The lady even angrily made a threatening statement. Houdini would pay for this. What seemed like just angry words. Unexpectedly, not long after, an accident really happened. A strange man pretending to be a fan came backstage, and threw several heavy punches while Houdini was off guard. By the time he was taken to the hospital, it was already too late. Houdini's appendix had ruptured. His body was severely infected. However, how could such a great magician be content to end his life in such a careless way? On the night he sensed his approaching death, he made a secret code with his wife. If spiritualism was fake, he wanted to deliver one final blow to the mediums this way. But if spiritualism was real, then I can stay by your side forever. In the days that followed, his wife followed Houdini's instructions, holding grand seances every year, but until now, no one has been able to say their secret code, thus naturally disproving the authenticity of spiritualism. But how could his wife not hope that spiritualism was real? Just like Houdini back then, in the process of exposing those frauds, perhaps he was the most sincere one, the one who most wanted to connect with that world.